Rain poured down on the broken buildings of HFY village. Lightning flashed in the dark sky. Thunder shook the ground. Tejo sat by his window watching the storm. His home was once a tea shop. Now it was just his quiet place away from everyone else. The war had ended 3 years ago. Most people moved to the big refugee camps in the south. Tejo chose to stay behind. The empty village suited him better than crowds of sad, angry people. Here he had peace. Here no one asked him to save lives he couldn't save. "More tea, Dochi?" Tejo asked his dog. Dochi lifted his head from his bed in the corner. The three-legged mutt yawned and thumped his tail against the floor. He had been with Tejo since the final days of the resource wars. Back then, Tejo was still a combat medic. He found Dochi trapped under fallen concrete, missing a leg but somehow still alive. They had been together ever since. "I'll take that. As a no," Tejo said with a small smile. He poured more hot water over his tea leaves. The flash came without warning, brighter than lightning. A moment later, the boom shook the old tea shop harder than any thunder. Dochi jumped up, barking. Tejo rushed to the window. Through the rain, he saw smoke rising from the hills east of the village. "What was that?" Tejo whispered. No one dropped bombs anymore. The wars were over. Everyone agreed there was nothing left worth fighting for. Dochi barked again and limped to the door, scratching at it. "You want to check it out in this weather?" Tejo asked. Dochi barked once more. Something in his dog's eyes made Tejo nod. "Let me get my coat and med bag." Old habits died hard. Though he swore he would never be a medic again, Tejo always kept his medical bag ready. He grabbed a flashlight, pulled on his raincoat, and stepped into the storm with Dochi leading the way. They walked through the empty streets of HFY village. Rain soaked through Tejo's pants. Wind pushed against him. But Dochi moved forward without stopping, his nose working hard, leading them toward the smoke. The crash site was at the edge of the old park. Tejo's flashlight showed a path of broken trees and torn earth. At the end of this path sat a metal object unlike anything Tejo had ever seen. It was about the size of a small car but shaped like an egg. Steam rose from its surface as raindrops hit the hot metal. "What is it?" Tejo whispered. Dochi whined and moved closer. The dog sniffed at the smooth metal shell. Suddenly, a section of the egg slid open. Dochi jumped back, and Tejo raised his arm to shield his eyes from the blue light that poured out. When he lowered his arm, he saw her. She lay inside the metal egg, not moving. Her skin had a soft blue glow that seemed to pulse with her breathing. Across every inch of visible skin were markings, not tattoos, but raised lines like scars, forming patterns Tejo couldn't understand. Her clothes were torn, showing more of the strange scars underneath. Blood, dark blue rather than red, leaked from a wound on her shoulder. "Hello?" Tejo called. "Can you hear me?" The woman didn't move. Tejo stepped closer, medical training taking over his caution. He checked her pulse, faster than a human's but steady. Her skin was hot to the touch. Fever, maybe. The shoulder wound looked infected. Dochi whined again and nudged Tejo's hand. "I know, boy," Tejo said. "We can't leave her here." Getting her back to the tea shop wasn't easy. The woman was lighter than she looked, but the rain made the ground slippery. By the time they reached home, Tejo's back ached and his clothes were soaked through. He laid her on his bed and began examining her wounds properly. The shoulder injury was worst, a deep cut that was turning the surrounding scars a darker blue. Her body temperature was much higher than a human's. Was that normal for her kind? Tejo had no way to know. He cleaned the wound, applied medicine, and wrapped it with clean bandages. As he worked, he noticed more details. Her ears came to slight points. Her fingers had an extra joint. The scars covering her body weren't random. They formed precise patterns, almost like writing or circuit boards. Some seemed to go beneath the skin, deeper than any tattoo could reach. Hours passed. The storm quieted outside. Tejo sat beside the bed, watching the strange woman breathe. Dochi lay at his feet, eyes fixed on their visitor. "Who are you?" Tejo whispered. What are you? As if hearing his questions, the woman's eyes suddenly opened. They were deep purple with no whites at all. She gasped and tried to sit up, then cried out in pain. Easy, Teho said, reaching for her good shoulder. You're hurt. Don't move. The woman stared at him with wide, frightened eyes. She spoke rapidly in a language Teho had never heard before. Her voice had a musical quality, words flowing into each other like water. I don't understand, Teho said, shaking his head. He pointed to her wrapped shoulder. You're injured. I'm trying to help. The woman's eyes darted around the room, taking in the old tea shop with its worn furniture and patched walls. When she saw Dochi, she froze. The dog tilted his head, then slowly approached the bed. To Teho's surprise, Dochi laid his head gently on the woman's lap. The tension in her body eased slightly. She looked down at the dog, then back at Teho, confusion clear in her eyes. That's Dochi, Teho explained, knowing she couldn't understand his words but hoping his calm tone would help. He's friendly. Slowly, carefully, the woman touched Dochi's head with trembling fingers. The dog closed his eyes, enjoying the attention. A small sound escaped her lips, not quite a laugh but close. Teho stood and walked to his small kitchen area. He felt her eyes following him. He took his time preparing a fresh cup of barley tea, giving her space to adjust. When it was ready, he brought it to her. Drink, he said, mimicking the action. It will help. She stared at the steaming cup, then at Teho. For a long moment, neither moved. Then, using her good arm, she accepted the cup. She sniffed it carefully before taking a small sip. Her eyes widened in surprise and she took another longer drink. Good, right? Teho smiled. My mother's recipe. The woman lowered the cup. Something in her face had changed. The fear was still there, but mixed now with something else. Curiosity, perhaps, or the beginning of trust. She placed her hand on her chest and spoke a single word. Mina. Teho nodded slowly, understanding. He pointed to himself. Teho. Then he pointed to the dog. Dochi. Mina repeated both names carefully, her strange accent making them sound new. She finished her tea and handed the empty cup back to Teho. Their fingers brushed, and Teho noticed how her scars seemed to pulse faintly at the contact. Rest now, he said, taking the cup. You're safe here. He wasn't sure if she understood his words, but she seemed to grasp his meaning. She settled back onto the bed, her eyes growing heavy. Before sleep took her, she looked once more at Teho and Dochi and spoke again in her language. This time, her words weren't frightened or confused. They sounded like thanks. As Mina slept, Teho sat by the window, watching the clouds clear after the storm. For the first time in years, he felt something stir within him, something he thought had died, in the war purpose. Days passed slowly in the old tea shop. Teho kept watch over Mina as her body fought the infection in her shoulder. Sometimes she woke, eyes wide with fear or pain. Other times she slept so deeply that only the soft rise and fall of her chest showed she was alive. Dochi rarely left her side. The dog seemed to sense when pain or bad dreams troubled her. He would press his warm body against her legs or rest his head on the bed near her hand. His presence calmed her in ways Teho could. On the fourth day, Mina's fever broke. Teho found her sitting up in bed when he returned from checking his garden. She watched him with those strange purple eyes, alert and clear for the first time. You look better, Teho said, as he set down his basket of vegetables. Mina touched her bandaged shoulder and nodded slowly. She spoke in her musical language, then frowned when she saw his confusion. We need to find a way to talk, Teho said. He pointed to himself. Teho. Then to her. Mina, she nodded again, understanding this much. Teho looked around the room thinking. His eyes fell on a cup. He picked it up and held it out. Cup. Mina watched closely. Cup, she repeated, the word sounding strange with her accent. And so began their lessons. Cup, water, food, chair, dog. Day by day, Mina learned more Earth words. Teho was surprised by how quickly she picked them up. He noticed that when she concentrated, the scars near her temples glowed slightly brighter than the others. One morning, about 2 weeks after her arrival, Teho was showing Mina how to tend the small garden behind the tea shop. He handed her a ripe tomato. "Tomato," he said. "Food. Good." Mina took the tomato and studied it. She ran her fingers over the smooth red skin, then over her own arm where the blue-tinged scars formed complex patterns. "Record," she said suddenly. The word was clear, though her accent still colored it. Teho looked at her, surprised. "Yes, tomato is food. We can eat it." Mina shook her head. She touched her scars again. "Record, memory, history." Each word came slowly, carefully chosen. Teho frowned, not understanding. Mina pointed to his small bookshelf visible through the window. "Books, knowledge?" She tapped her own skin. "Scars, record, knowledge." Understanding dawned on Teho's face. "Your scars are like books? They hold information?" Mina nodded eagerly. She pointed to the sky. Home, far. She raised her hands as if something was exploding. "Bad people, war." She touched her scars again. "Must protect. Important." Teho sat down on a garden bench, taking in this new information. "You're running from someone who wants what's in your scars." That night, as they shared a simple dinner, the strange devices at Mina's temples began to glow brighter. She placed her hands on them, eyes closed in concentration. When she opened her eyes again, she smiled. "The translators are working better now," she said. Her words were still accented but much clearer. "They needed time to adapt to your language, patterns." Teho nearly dropped his spoon. "You can speak my language now, just like that?" "Not perfectly," Mina said. "The implants help process what I hear. Speaking is harder, but I can understand you much better now." "What are you?" Teho asked. "Where did you come from?" Mina's face grew serious. "My world is called Naori. It is very far from yours. I am—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Royalty, a princess, but also a scientist." "And the scars?" Mina traced one of the patterns on her arm. "On my world, important knowledge is kept safe this way. Living archives. I carry the history of my people, scientific discoveries, star maps." Her voice grew sad. "My family has always been the keepers of knowledge. Now I am the last one left." "What happened to your world? Your family?" "Bad people took control. They killed my family. They want to destroy the knowledge I carry and use what remains for weapons." Mina looked down at her hands. "I escaped, but they hunt me." They sat in silence for a while. Dochi sensed the mood and rested his head on Mina's lap. She stroked his ears gently. "Why did you help me?" she asked finally. "You could have left me in the forest." Teho was quiet for a long time. "Before the wars, I was a doctor, a healer. I helped people who were hurt." His eyes grew distant. "During the fighting, I became a combat medic. I saw too much death, too much pain I couldn't stop." He looked out the window at the empty village. "When the wars ended, I couldn't be around people anymore. Their suffering, it was too much. So I came here, where no one would ask me for help. I couldn't give. But you helped me," Mina said softly. "Yes." Teho met her eyes. "I don't know why. Maybe because you needed help. Maybe because Dochi wouldn't let me leave you there." He gave a small smile. "He's a good judge of character." The next day they walked through the ruined village. Teho showed Mina the empty houses, the old school, the market square where nothing had been sold in years. "Your world had wars too?" Mina asked, looking at the broken buildings. "Resource wars," Teho explained. "Too many people, not enough food, water, fuel. Countries fought over what was left. Millions died. Those who survived moved to government camps. He gestured at the empty streets. Only a few, like me, chose to stay in places like this. Why stay alone? Tejo didn't answer right away. They walked in silence until they reached a small hill overlooking the village. My wife and daughter died in the last year of fighting, he said finally. An attack meant for a military target hit a refugee center instead. I was serving as a medic nearby. I couldn't save them. Mina looked at him with deep sadness in her purple eyes. I'm sorry. After that, I couldn't bear to be around happy families. Or sad ones. Or any people at all. Tejo shrugged. Dochi was enough company. As they walked back to the tea shop, a sound made them both freeze. Voices, coming from the direction of Tejo's home. Quick, Tejo whispered, pulling Mina into the shadow of an old store. Hide. They watched as 3 people approached the tea shop, an older woman and 2 younger men. They carried bags and walked with the tired steps of travelers. Who are they? Mina whispered, shrinking behind Tejo. People from the nearest village, Tejo said. They come sometimes when they need medical help. The camps are too far and the doctors there are always busy. You still help people, Mina said. It wasn't a question. Tejo sighed. Only when there's no one else. Wait here with Dochi. I'll see what they need. Mina and Dochi watched from hiding as Tejo approached the visitors. They talked for a while, then went inside the tea shop. An hour passed before they emerged again. Tejo gave the woman a small package, probably medicine. She bowed deeply to him before they left, walking back the way they had come. When they were gone, Mina and Dochi joined Tejo at the tea shop. The woman's grandson has a fever, Tejo explained. Nothing serious. I gave her medicine and showed her how to use it. That night, as Tejo changed the bandage on Mina's shoulder, she didn't turn away as she had before. Instead, she watched his hands work with careful, gentle movements. Your hands are kind, she said. Tejo looked up, surprised. They've seen too much pain to be anything else now. No, Mina said. Pain could have made them cruel. You chose kindness instead. Later, as the moon rose over the quiet village, Mina stood at the window. Her scars glowed softly in the darkness. Will they find you here? Tejo asked, joining her. Yes, Mina said simply. Eventually. What will you do when they come? Mina turned to face him. For the first time, Tejo saw something like fear in her eyes. I don't know, she admitted. I've been running so long. I'm tired. Tejo looked at Dochi, sleeping peacefully on his bed. Then back to Mina, with her glowing scars and sad eyes. Then rest, he said. You're safe here. For now. Morning came with strange sounds. Tejo woke to the buzzing of his old radio. It had not worked in years, but now it made noise by itself. Static filled the small room. What is happening? He asked, walking to the shelf where the radio sat. Mina was already awake. Her face was pale. The scars on her skin glowed brighter than usual. They are scanning, she said quietly. Looking for technology that responds to their signals. Dochi stood by the window, his fur standing up. He growled at something neither of them could see. Who is scanning? Tejo asked. The hunters. From my world. Mina walked to the window and looked out. They found my escape pod. Now they search for me. Tejo joined her at the window. The morning sky was clear, but something moved high above the village. A small dark shape that wasn't a bird. Drone, Mina explained. It searches for energy patterns that match my technology. Will it find you? Mina touched the implants at her temples. Yes, these give off energy when they work. I can't remove them. Tejo thought for a moment. So we need to leave the tea shop. No. Mina shook her head. You should stay. This is not your fight. I will go. Where? The nearest town is 3 days' walk. There's nothing but empty land between here and there. I can't put you in danger, Mina said. Her eyes met his. They will kill anyone who helps me. Teho looked at Dochi, who had stopped growling and now stood watching them both. The dog moved to Mina's side and pressed against her leg. I think Dochi has decided, Teho said with a small smile. We're helping you. Besides, I know this area better than anyone. If we need to hide, I know where to go. Mina opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She placed her hand on Dochi's head. Thank you, she said softly. They packed quickly. Food, water, medical supplies. Teho grabbed an old hunting knife from a drawer. There's one more thing, Mina said. Her face was serious. I need to tell you the whole truth. She sat down at the table and motioned for Teho to join her. These scars, she said, tracing the patterns on her arm. They hold more than just history. They contain information about energy technology, new ways to create power without destroying worlds. Like the resource wars did to Earth, Teho said. Yes, my people were working on power that comes from empty space itself, endless energy that belongs to no one and everyone. Her voice grew sad. But the ones who took over our world want to use it for weapons instead. Weapons that could destroy planets. Teho was quiet, taking in her words. That's why they hunt me so hard. Mina continued. If I reach people who would use this knowledge as it was meant to be used, their power ends. Before Teho could respond, Dochi began barking wildly. They both turned to the window. The drone was lower now, hovering just above the village center. Need to go, Teho said. Now. They slipped out the back door of the tea shop. Teho led them through narrow paths between buildings, staying in shadows whenever possible. The drone moved back and forth over the village, making a pattern as it searched. Where are we going? Mina whispered as they crouched behind an old truck. Somewhere they won't find us easily, Teho answered. He pointed to the ground. Under. When they reached the old school building, Teho moved aside some bushes to reveal metal doors set into the ground. He pulled them open, showing stone steps leading down into darkness. Old tunnels, he explained. Built during the first wars as shelters. Most people forgot about them. How do you know about them? Mina asked as they descended, Dochi following close behind. I found maps in the village office when I first came here. I've explored most of them. Some connect to the tea shop. Teho closed the doors behind them and turned on his flashlight. The tunnels run under the whole village. The air below was, cool and damp. Their footsteps echoed on the stone floor. Teho led them through twisting passages, sometimes stopping to check marks scratched on the walls. We'll be safe here for a while, he said when they reached a larger room with old chairs and tables. But we need a plan. We can't stay underground forever. Before Mina could answer, a deep humming sound reached them, even through the layers of earth above. Ships, she said, her voice tight with fear. 3, maybe 4. Not drones this time. Hunters. The lights in Teho's old flashlight flickered and died, but they could still see. Mina's scars glowed bright enough to light the room with a blue glow. I'm sorry, she whispered. When their technology is near, my scars react. They'll be able to track the energy. Teho thought quickly. Then we need to move. We need to split them up, make them search one by one instead of as a group. He looked at the tunnels leading from the room. I know these passages, they don't. For the next hour they moved through the underground maze. Teho led them in circles, doubling back, taking side passages. They heard noises above them now, and then heavy footsteps. Strange mechanical sounds. Voices speaking in Mina's language. 3 hunters, she translated after hearing them clearly. Elite trackers. They found the tea shop. They know I was there. Teho nodded, his face grim. He reached into his bag and pulled out the hunting knife. I was a medic, not a soldier, he said, but I learned a few things in the wars. Their weapons are very advanced, Mina warned. Energy beams, stun fields. We have something they don't, Teho said. What? Home field advantage. He smiled slightly. And a very smart dog. He knelt by Dochi and spoke softly to him. The dog listened, head tilted. Then Tae-ho took a piece of cloth from his pocket, a bandage he had used on Mina's shoulder days ago. It still held her scent. He tied it around Dochi's neck. Go to the tea shop, he told the dog. The long way, through the tunnel that comes up in the garden. Then wait. Dochi looked at Mina, then back at Tae-ho. He seemed to understand. With a soft bark, he trotted down one of the tunnels and disappeared into the darkness. What is he doing? Mina asked. Creating a distraction, Tae-ho said. Your scent on the bandage will draw at least one of the hunters away from us. But Dochi could be hurt. He's smarter than they are. He knows these tunnels too. Tae-ho took her hand. Come, we need to set up our own trap. They moved to a section of tunnel where the ceiling was cracked with dirt falling through in places. Unstable, Tae-ho explained. One good blast from their weapons would bring it down. You want to collapse the tunnel? But how will we escape? Tae-ho pointed to a narrow passage behind them. That leads to the old well in the market. We can climb out there. They didn't wait long. Heavy footsteps approached from the main tunnel. A beam of light much brighter than Tae-ho's flashlight cut through the darkness. Mina pressed herself against the wall, her scars dimming as she tried to control their glow. A figure stepped into view, tall, wearing armor that seemed to shift colors to match the tunnel walls. The helmet covered the face completely. In its hands was a weapon that hummed with energy. Tae-ho waited until the hunter was directly under the weakest part of the ceiling. Then he stepped out. Looking for her? He asked. The hunter turned, weapon rising. Tae-ho threw his knife. Not at the hunter, but at the ceiling above him. The blade struck a crack in the stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a groan, the ceiling began to give way. The hunter fired upward. The energy blast hit the falling stones, turning some to dust, but it was too late. Dirt and rock crashed down. The hunter tried to jump clear but was caught by the edge of the collapse. He fell, half buried in rubble. Run! Tae-ho shouted to Mina. They sprinted for the narrow passage as more of the ceiling came down behind them. They emerged from the well minutes later, climbing the old stone sides. The village seemed quiet, but smoke rose from the direction of the tea shop. Dochi, Tae-ho whispered, his heart sinking. A bark answered him. They turned to see Dochi limping toward them from between buildings. The bandage was gone from his neck, but he seemed unhurt. Good boy, Tae-ho said, kneeling to hug the dog. Very good boy. Their relief was short-lived. A voice called out from behind them. They turned to see a hunter standing at the edge of the market square. His helmet was off, showing a face similar to Mina's but with different scars. More weapon-like. Princess Mina, he said in perfect Korean. His voice was cold. Your running ends here. Mina stepped forward, her scars glowing brightly now. She no longer tried to hide them. June, she said, I should have known they would send you. Hello, Princess. June stepped closer, his weapon pointed at Mina. It's been a long chase. Mina stood tall despite her fear. You were sworn to protect my family, June. Now you hunt me for them. Times change. June looked around the empty village square. Is this where you chose to hide? A broken world with broken people? Tae-ho moved to stand beside Mina. Dochi growled at June, hackles raised. This man helped you? June asked, his lip curling. And his animal? How far the royal family has fallen? What happened to the other hunters? Mina asked. One dead in the tunnel collapse, the other injured by a clever trap in a building with old cups. June's eyes narrowed. You're doing? He asked Tae-ho. Tae-ho said nothing, but his hands tightened into fists. It doesn't matter, June continued. I've called the ship. Soon we'll be gone from this place and you'll face the council, Princess. The council is corrupt, Mina said. They don't want knowledge. They want weapons. Knowledge is a weapon, June replied. Your family never understood that. Always hiding discoveries, always talking about responsibility and the right time. The council will use what's in your scars to make our world strong again. Tae-ho looked between them, thinking quickly. The market square had many hiding places, old stalls and broken carts. Behind June was the path to the old storage buildings. If they could reach those... Mina, Teho whispered. When I move, run for the storage buildings. The big metal ones. Mina gave a tiny nod. You. June pointed his weapon at Teho. Step away from her. This isn't your fight, primitive. This is my home, Teho said. That makes it my fight. Without warning, Teho grabbed a stone from the ground and threw it hard at June's face. The hunter ducked, his weapon firing wildly. The energy blast hit an old market stall, turning it to splinters. Run, Teho shouted. He and Mina sprinted toward the storage buildings. Dochi ran ahead, leading the way. June fired again. The blast hit the ground near Teho's feet, sending him sprawling. Mina stopped to help him up. Keep going. Teho pushed her forward. His leg burned where the blast had grazed him, but he could still run. They reached the first storage building. Its metal walls were rusted but still strong. Inside were old crates and farming tools left from before the wars. What now? Mina asked, breathing hard. He'll find us here. We need to separate him from his weapon, Teho said. He looked around the dim space. These buildings were used to store fuel for farm machines. There might still be some left. He limped to the back of the building where large drums stood. Most were empty, but one still sloshed when he moved it. Here, help me, he said to Mina. Together, they tipped some of the old fuel into smaller containers. The liquid was thick and smelled strong after years of sitting. I was never a soldier, Teho said as they worked. But I treated many of them. They talked about fighting, about using whatever you have. Mina nodded. My people believe in peace. But sometimes peace must be defended. She looked at her glowing scars. These hold the key to ending resource wars forever. No more fighting over energy. No more worlds destroyed for their last drops of fuel. A noise outside made them freeze. June was near, searching methodically. We need to split up, Teho whispered. Draw him in different directions. Make him waste his energy. Shots. He's dangerous, Mina warned. Those weapons can cut through metal. But they need time to recharge after big shots, Teho guessed. I saw how he waited between blasts. Mina thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes. The bigger the blast, the longer the recharge. Then we make him take big shots. Teho looked at Dochi. Boy, you stay with Mina. Keep her safe. Dochi whined softly but moved to Mina's side. Meet me at the village center when you can, Teho said. And Mina, if something happens to me, run for the eastern hills. There are caves there. You can hide until his ship leaves. Before Mina could argue, Teho slipped out a side door, carrying one of the fuel containers. The next hours were a deadly game of hide-and-seek through the ruined village. Teho used his knowledge of every building, every alley, every hiding place. He led June on a twisting chase, always staying just out of range, forcing the hunter to use his weapon on empty buildings, on shadows, on tricks. Teho splashed the fuel on key spots, dried wood, old paper, anything that would burn easily. Each time June fired his energy weapon near these spots, fires started. Small at first, then growing larger. Soon, parts of the empty village were burning. Smoke filled the air. It made seeing harder for everyone, but it helped hide Teho's movements. His leg hurt with every step, but he kept moving. The pain reminded him he was alive, that he was fighting for something important again. In an old garage, Teho found what he had been hoping for: old tools. He grabbed a heavy wrench and continued his run. As the sun began to set, Teho made his way to the village center. The fires had spread to several buildings now, their orange glow mixed with the deepening blue of evening. He hoped Mina had found a safe path here. A movement caught his eye. June stepped into the square, his armor scratched, his face angry. His weapon hummed with energy. "Where is she, Primitive?" he called out. "Tell me and I might let you live." "My name is Teho," he replied, stepping out from behind a broken fountain. "I was a healer before your kind came here. And now? June raised his weapon. Now I remember there are things worth fighting for. Teho gripped the wrench tightly. Even on a broken world. June laughed. You think you can fight me with that? I have destroyed armies with this weapon. Maybe, Teho said. But right. Now your weapon needs to recharge. You've been firing too many big shots. June's smile faded as he realized Teho was right. The indicator on his weapon glowed yellow, not ready for another blast. With a cry of rage, June rushed forward. But Teho had treated too many soldiers not to know how to move in a fight. He dodged to the side, swinging the wrench at June's arm. The hunter was fast, blocking the blow with his armor. They fought in the growing darkness, lit only by the fires and the blue glow of June's armor. The hunter was stronger, his movements enhanced by his suit. But Teho was fighting for his home, for Mina, for a future without resource wars. Each time he was knocked down, he rose again. June finally caught him with a powerful blow. Teho fell hard, the wrench flying from his hand. The hunter stood over him, weapon now fully charged and pointed at his chest. Any last words, Primitive? June asked. A bark rang out across the square. June turned to see Dochi charging toward him, teeth bared. The dog leaped, catching June's arm in his jaws. The hunter cried out, trying to shake Dochi off. His weapon fired into the air. From the shadows stepped Mina. Her scars glowed brighter than ever, pulsing with energy that made the air around her shimmer. Enough, June, she said. Her voice was different now, powerful and echoing. No more hunting, no more killing. June finally threw Dochi off. The dog yelped but landed on his feet, still growling. You can't stop what's coming, Princess, June said. The Council has already sent more ships. This planet will burn like the others that tried to hide you. No, Mina said simply. She raised her hands. The scars on her palms began to glow so brightly that Teho had to shield his eyes. It ends here. A pulse of energy shot from her hands. It hit June's weapon first, then spread to his armor. Both began to spark and smoke. The hunter cried out as his technology failed around him. His weapon fell useless to the ground. His armor locked in place, trapping him. Mina walked forward, her face calm but sad. I never wanted to use the knowledge this way, June. But you gave me no choice. Teho stood shakily, leaning on Dochi for support. He watched as the princess he had saved now stood transformed by power, no longer a frightened refugee but a force of nature. What did you do to him? Teho asked. Disabled his technology, Mina explained, her voice returning to normal. The scars hold defense systems too. I just never had the strength to use them before. She looked at Teho with wonder in her eyes. Something about this place. About you. It gave me the courage. June struggled in his frozen armor. Kill me then, princess. Finish what you started. Mina shook her head. No, I am not like the Council. I don't solve problems with death. She touched the scars on her wrist. There is another way. There always has been. Dawn broke over HFY Village. The fires from the battle had died out in the night rain. Smoke still rose from some buildings, but the village stood. Like Earth itself, it had survived another fight. In the tea shop, Teho sat at his old table. His leg was bandaged where the energy blast had hit him. Across from him sat June, no longer in his armor but wearing simple clothes Teho had found for him. The hunter's hands were bound with wire. Mina worked at the counter, her fingers moving over the parts of June's ship communicator. Dochi lay at her feet, watching her every move with careful eyes. You can't win this, June said to Mina. Even if you disable my ship, more will come. The Council will never stop hunting you. I know, Mina replied without looking up. That's why I'm not running anymore. Teho watched her work. Since the fight, she had changed. The fear was gone from her eyes. Her movements were sure and strong. The scars on her skin glowed with steady blue light, no longer flickering with uncertainty. What are you going to do? Teho asked. Mina looked up at last. I'm going to go home. To Naori? Teho couldn't hide the surprise in his voice. But the Council, the ones who killed your family, Yes. Mina's eyes were clear and determined. Running doesn't solve anything. Your world taught me that. You taught me that. She finished her work on the communicator and pressed a button. A hologram appeared above the device, showing a map of stars. June's ship is large enough for two, she continued. I can use it to return to Nauri. I can face the council with the full knowledge I carry. They'll kill you the moment you land, June said. No, Mina shook her head. Not if I broadcast the knowledge first. Not if I share it with all worlds, not just Nauri. She looked at Taiho, including Earth. Taiho stood up slowly, favoring his injured leg. What are you saying? The technology in my scars could help Earth recover from your resource wars, Mina explained. Energy that doesn't require burning the last of your fuels. Power that belongs to everyone. She walked to Taiho and took his hands in hers. Her touch was warm, the scars on her palms pulsing gently against his skin. But someone needs to stay. Here to help implement the knowledge, she said. Someone needs to be Earth's guardian of this gift. Taiho looked down at their joined hands. You want to give this to me? I'm just a medic. I don't understand your technology. You don't need to, Mina smiled. The knowledge can be transferred. A small part of it, enough to begin. June laughed harshly. You would trust a primitive with Nauri's greatest secrets? This man is nothing. This man, Mina said firmly, saved me when he could have left me to die. He fought for me when he had no reason to fight. He showed kindness when your kind showed only cruelty. She looked at Taiho with deep respect. If all humans are like him, then Earth deserves this chance. Taiho shook his head. All humans are not like me, Mina. Some are better. Many are worse. I know, she said. I've seen your wars and your memories. But I've also seen your hope. Your willingness to start again, even after everything was lost. She looked around the simple tea shop. You could have given up. Instead, you built a home. You helped others when they needed you. You kept growing food in your garden. These are the acts of someone who believes in tomorrow. The day passed as they prepared. Mina used the parts from her escape pod to repair the damaged hunter ship. Taiho gathered supplies for her journey. Dochi never left Mina's side, as if knowing their time together was short. As evening approached, Mina asked Taiho to sit across from her at the table one last time. This will not hurt, she promised. She placed her hands on either side of his face. But you may see strange things, memories that are not yours, knowledge older than your world. I'm ready, Taiho said. The scars on Mina's arms began to glow brighter. The light spread up to her face, then to her hands, where they touched Taiho's skin. He gasped as images flooded his mind. Stars being born, strange machines drawing power from empty space, formulas and plans he couldn't understand but somehow knew were important. When it was done, Taiho looked down at his hands. On his palms were new marks, faint blue lines that formed patterns like Mina's scars. What did you do? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. I gave you the key, Mina said. Not all of the knowledge. No single person should carry that burden. But enough to start. Enough to help your world heal. Will these marks spread? Will they change me? No, Mina smiled. They will fade in time, once the knowledge has taken root in your mind. I would never change who you are, Taiho. Your humanity is your strength. At first light the next day, they walked to the ship. June went first, still bound but now resigned to his fate. Taiho carried the last supplies while Mina knelt to say goodbye to Dochi. You are the bravest of all, she told the dog, hugging him close. Take care of him for me. Dochi whined softly, licking her face. Mina laughed, the first truly free laugh Taiho had heard from her. When she stood, tears shone in her purple eyes. Will you be all right? She asked Taiho. I survived the end of my world once, he said. I can survive saying goodbye to you. This isn't goodbye, Mina said firmly. It's until we meet again. Once I've dealt with the council, once the knowledge is safe, I will return. And if you don't? Then the knowledge lives on here. She touched his marked palms. And in others, I will send. Earth will not face its challenges alone anymore. They stood in silence for a moment, neither wanting to say the final words. Then Mina spoke, her voice strong despite her tears. My people have a saying, she told Taeho. True wealth is measured not by what we possess, but by what we can give away. She touched the faint blue markings on his hands. You gave me shelter when I had none, protection when I was vulnerable, and hope when mine was lost. In return, I give your world a future. And what do I give you? Taeho asked. Mina smiled. You already gave me everything I needed. She looked around at the village, at Dochi, at the morning sun rising over the hills. You showed me that even a ruined world can be home if the right people are in it. The ship rose silently into the morning sky. Taeho and Dochi watched until it was only a distant point of light, then nothing at all. In the days that followed, Taeho began to understand the knowledge Mina had given him. At night he wrote down the strange ideas that came to him. During the day he worked in the garden, planting more than he had before. He cleaned out the other rooms in the tea shop, made space, prepared. 1 month after Mina left, strangers came to the village again. Not hunters this time, but scientists. They had detected strange energy readings from HFY Village. They asked many questions. Taeho showed them his hands, the marks now barely visible. He shared the knowledge, but carefully. Not all at once. Not to those who would use it wrongly. Will you come with us to the city? One scientist asked. We could use someone who understands this technology. Taeho looked at Dochi, who sat watching the sky as he often did now. No, he said, but you are welcome to work here. This village has space for those who want to build rather than destroy. At night, Taeho still sat by his window, drinking tea and looking at the stars. But now, instead of looking back at the past, he looked up, waiting, hopeful. He had been given everything. Now it was his turn to give.